Okay, this is from London Glide. He says, can the 32E be motored like the 5861 to see if it's working?
Yes, I believe so. Yeah.
What is motored? What's that mean?
You connect power up to it in a different way,
Yeah.
and it'll run as a starter motor, not a dynamo.
Oh, okay.
Not a generator. Yeah. Yeah, I'm sure you can. I've done it before, yeah.
Dogpaw 775. Do you have to flash or arc polarize one of the gen terminals directly from the battery to ensure it gives charge?
No, the only reason you normally flash a generator or a voltage regulator is to make sure the polarity's right, negative earth or positive earth. No, normally the only reason you do it is if you're changing the earth, but the way the relay works, it's not a voltage regulator, it's just a shunt relay. So no, you shouldn't have to. Pasty, please.
Iceman Cometh 8679. This is when you're doing the brake assessment on the 1950 Pontiac Chieftain Silverstreak. Is the refill place on the front floor board for the transmission fluid? At Walmart, they have a listing on the work orders that it says transfer case. I think that's what it is. Mine has a reverse, neutral and drive, no park, but big emergency brake handle.
There's one underneath your feet.
Yeah.
Basically that's for your brake master cylinder. And there's another one further over. Yes, you can check and top up your automatic transmission fluid. Yeah. That's more on the central tunnel though, not underneath your feet. I think so.
There you go. TUTC 2051. This is when you're assembling the spring of forks on a WLA.
Yep.
Since my rear rockers don't have the spaces you used, my parts catalogue does not list them either. Any suggestions?
Oh, depends what forks they were. WLA, WLC and big twin forks have the rockers on the outside.
Yeah.
WLAs have them on the inside. The spacers that you can use, or if it had a front stand on it or not.
Yeah.
There's lots of different variations. All of your general spare parts books, I mean, it should all be in there if it's a standard. So that's your front bushes, no spaces on there as such, just your tab washers to hold the mudguard flange. Again, lock washers. Now, standard WLA then doesn't have spaces. It might have been that one had a front stand fitted or something, who knows. Okay. The only reason you put spaces in there is to set up the stand system.
Right.
General standard ones don't have them as such, but I think they do on WLCs and big twin forks.
From Dan D Welding 5148, and this is when you're fitting the hand clutch assist on WLC.
Yeah.
May I ask where you sourced the hand clutch kit from?
Well, feeling it was 45 service. Let's have a look. So flathead 45 service, they're in the Netherlands, I think, aren't they?
Yeah.
Go down the side, run military equipment. I think it was in here. Valve covers, hand clutch complete. There it is. There you go, hand clutch complete with aluminium and fits WLC, all 45 models.
It's a Lugo Lover 355. This is when you were doing the rewiring on the Austin Healey. I'm lucky enough to own a 100BN1 which I restored.
Yep.
I'm somewhat confused by the approach on a couple of points. The relay box and wiring for the indicators is simple to wire up according to the diagram you're using. The 100 is not supposed to have separate indicators,
no.
So why not take out the extra lights and leave the original system in place, which looks good and works perfectly well. One 12-volt battery fits on one side of the original battery mounting and saves space in the boot, which reduces the wired extensions.
Yeah.
Why not change to an alternator? Good quality alternator supplied in the original looking casing and available, and they dispense with the regular box and work really well.
Yeah.
If the battery is in the boot and the car has got the wrong indicators, the owner can't be fussed about originality, so is it surely a no-brainer?
Yes, I mean, I totally agree with what you're saying. If you wanted it original, yes, apart from the alternator obviously, but it's basically the way we work and the way most restoration companies work. It's the customer's choice.
Yeah.
He had those indicators fitted because he wasn't happy he felt they were unsafe having the red lenses flashing
Yeah.
instead of orange indicators. He was an older gent. It had been done a long time ago, same as the batteries removed and extended into the boot. So we did what he requested.
Okay.
Basically, that's it. But I totally agree with his point. If you want it original, yes. Yeah, you can use the DR10 or whatever it is. Relay. Yeah. They work perfectly well. It's just, as I say... Yeah, they all work perfectly well. It's just you've got side lamps. Indicate left, and your brake lamp becomes your left-hand indicator.
Yeah.
So you only have one brake light on the right-hand side while all the time the indicator's flashing.
Yeah.
Vice versa. So it's just the customer's choice. He wanted it left with the original, so I took this box out, just put a standard relay in there.
This is from Ford Speed, 1965 Mustang power steering pump install.
Yeah.
Because I couldn't watch for any longer than a total of 1.5 minutes. Not so much an instructional video as much as a bunch of attempts to do a job for the first time with mishmash parts. It may have been a 65 Mustang, but you were installing 1967 parts onto it. Anyway, hope that worked out in the end.
It had been converted to power steering rack and pinion.
Yeah.
I was actually trying to get all the pipes and all that back on. They could well have been 67 parts. It's a 65 Mustang.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's Tony Fastback. Again, just dealing with what was in the car at the time. If he doesn't want to watch it, don't watch it. It's just simple. Yeah, I mean, you can always be the purist, and I totally agree with that. If you want to go that way, get the right parts and do it. He just bought a new engine. He'd done a load of money on it. We had to deal with what we had. Simple as that.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's right. To make a bolt up and different bits and pieces, didn't I? So thread sizes were different and stuff like that. Yeah. I totally agree. If you've got the money, go for it. Yeah, go and throw away everything that's in there, buy it all as it should be. If you're going to do that, take the power steering rack out, put it back to original with the steering box. You can go on and on and on.
Yeah.
That wire's the wrong colour. How far do you go? You have to deal with what the customer wants. Simple as that. And if you're restoring the car back to pristine condition, yeah, it's wrong.
Yeah.
But you can only deal with what you got on the plate.
This is when you're replacing a rear wheel bearing from the Alfa Romeo.
Yep.
Al-Kafa says, fabulous that you thought it appropriate to make a how-to video where the first half is a mechanic not having a clue how to deal with the bearings on this car. He's quite possibly bent your backing plate, by the way. It does happen. Did you confirm that he didn't cut a groove into your half shafts by accident when cutting the press fit rings?
You either heat them and try and get them off, or you cut them, put a chisel in them and bang them. You don't cut the way through to the half shaft. You just asking for trouble.
Yeah.
Admittedly, I'd never done one before. I looked online. That's how they said to do it. So you follow what's online. Yeah. I'm sure there are special tools out there. It's a bit like a Sunbeam Alpine rear hub nut. You won't get it off, not unless you've got a fucking pole about 70 foot long and about 10 blokes hanging on the end of it.
Yeah.
You have to cut them off. You can't get them off. Simple as that. So I looked online, followed what it said on there, heated them up, pressed them back on.
Wonderful. All worked out all right in the end?
Yeah, it's fine. Yeah. More worried about the rear axle hanging out of the bloody things. We change all the bushes and everything. So, but yeah, I mean, again, if you're an Alfa Romeo specialist, you've got all the tools and everything. Fair play. We can all sit here and pick holes in everybody's work. That's easy done.
Yeah.
But when you've got the car in pieces in front of you and you have to deal with it, you have to deal with it.
Wayne Larson 1523.
Mm-hmm.
That's when you were having a look round at a 1943 WLC.
Mm-hmm.
He says, I've got a 1942 WLC and I'm having a hard time getting it to kick over. Anything you can help with would be great.
It depends what he means by a hard time for getting it to kick over. Is it slipping? Is the ratchet pull slipping? Or is it just you can't kick it over because it's too hard? Gearbox is chewed up, engine's chewed up.
Okay, so
there's different scenarios to it.
picking two though. So maybe if it's just hard, it's not.
If it's just hard, there's something wrong internally with the gearbox.
Yeah.
If it's solid, something's broken
Yeah.
and it's fallen down in the gearbox. Or
how stiff should it be? Because you stand on it and you push down.
No, yeah, it is stiff, but not that stiff. I'll show you on that one over there in a minute. But if it's physically, you can jump up and down on it, it's not moving, something's broken.
Yeah.
If it isn't broken in a gearbox, so that just drives your primary chain to the engine, then there's something broken in the engine.
Yeah.
But if it's just not engaging and slipping, it'll be the ratchet pulls and shimming.
Okay.
Yeah.
And if it's just slipping, so it's
clutch adjustment maybe.
So maybe some teeth are missing on.
Yeah, yeah. If you can hear it, I don't know if you remember Bogdan's one.
Yeah.
You catch sometimes and it slip and your leg goes straight down. That's your ratchet teeth. If it's just not turning over, you can hear a sort of slight hissing noise. That's clutch is too tight.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's hard to know.
Yeah, without having specifics.
Yeah, without specific. I mean, I can show you.
Yeah.
So that's a good condition gearbox, good condition engine. You can kick it over. That's normal, yeah?
Yeah.
If you're starting on it, you give it a jump. You know, you jump on it a bit harder. So you've got, that's your countershaft gear, which your starter system works upon, yeah? So you've got, see, that's a ratchet pull that goes in there. So that's your kickstart. Kick spike over. That's your return. As it returns, you have what's called tripper bolts that draw that away from that. Yeah. So that can be out of adjustment by a long way.
Yeah.
Or tripper bolt loose or anything, but see all the edges on that are all chewed up. If they're adjusted up wrong, edges on that one all chewed up, yeah. That one's not too bad, but it's cracked. And if you look in there, see all the ridges have gone off the top.
Okay.
So that's been out of adjustment, and it's not engaging, so it's just doing that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So unless it's got a positive engagement, the more you kick it, the worse it'll get.
Yeah.
The more you kick it, the worse it'll get. It's just one of those things. If the tripper bolts aren't holding it back far enough, and that's running, they're just chipping the edges.
Yeah.
There's just a few adjustments in there. It's got to be shimmed up right.
Yeah.
Which is all.
It's like forcing it into gear. If you have to force it into gear, it's not right.
So you've got 4 shims in there, 2 shims in that end, 2 shims in that end, needle rollers. That has to be right.
Yeah.
Also the bearing in the end where the kickstart shaft goes through should have a spring on it, a little tiny spring.
Yeah.
That bearing casing can come out the gearbox casing. That can mess it all up. Generally that makes it engage too much, which could be his issue.
Yeah.
Could be the tripper bolts are worn that hold that back off of there. But I mean, if it is solid, there's something wrong with it.
Yeah.
If it just doesn't engage, and there's still something wrong with it, but it's all down to shimming and how worn your teeth are. If once they're gone, they're gone. You can't repair it. You can try putting a brand new one of them in it, but sure as eggs, 9 times out of 10, you'll put that in it, and it still won't work.
Yeah.
So
it's not.
They look horrendously expensive. They're not horrendously expensive. That's out of a 4-speed, so. But it makes no difference. They're all got the same.
Yeah. So it's not. Oh, that's just the way my bike is. Because
no, there's something wrong with it.
Yeah.
Yeah. If it won't, if it's either too solid, there's something wrong with it, and if it doesn't engage properly, there's something wrong with it. It's all. Again, we've said this so many times on the gearboxes. If you don't shim them up right, they won't last.
Yeah.
They might work for a month, but they won't last. You've got to get it right. Yeah.